You're listening to Off Color, a podcast where we keep it real and talk about race and identity. I'm your host, Rebecca Henderson, aka the Tan Tigress, and I have in the studio with me the lovely Janice Motzko, our intrepid producer.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Off Color Season 3, Episode 4. On this episode, we took a deep dive into representation of the Black self in pop culture, media, and politics. Oh, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Queen and Slim by now, I'm pretty sure you're not seeing it. And if you haven't seen Harriet Tubman by now, you're definitely not seeing it. And there may be some other spoilers. So let's just go ahead and get started. Welcome back, fam. Today we have two very special guests in studio at the House of Pod. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys introduce yourselves because my introductions are trash. So go ahead, Miss Reagan Bird.
My name is Reagan Bird, and I'm an anti-oppression speaker, trainer, activist, and consultant. I love media analysis. I love... in terms of anti-oppression work, I love looking at film, television, especially recently because there's a lot of interesting conversations happening in kind of public space through media. And so I'm anxious to have that conversation. And in my anti-oppression work, I tend to bring in media, philosophy, sociology, a lot of different things that contribute to having that conversation more broadly. So thankful to be a part of this podcast and anxious to discuss opinions.
All right, Danette Hollowell. We're going to welcome back Danette Hollowell. Present yourself, darling.
Hi, my name is Danette Hollowell. I am a jazz singer, East Sider, mother, artivist, Black doula, and lactation counselor. And I too really love the way race and socioeconomic things show up in film and media. And in my other life, I was probably a film critic, and I just love it. So I'm super excited to talk about it.
So if you can't tell from these intros, we are about to get into the golden age of whatever's going on in our entertainment, because now it's like streaming, films, TV, all that stuff. Hey, White Janice, that's the name, man. Janice, that could throw you for a turn. You know what I'm saying? So, well, because this is off color.
Is that an Irish name?
Janice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't
Your
really
name's
know
not
where
Irish?
it comes
Oh.
from. No, my grandmother's name was Jane, and my mom wanted to name me after her, but not Jane.
Oh, well.
So,
That's
there
an
you go.
interesting story. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, my dearest darlings, I want to talk about a couple of things. One, Reagan, I've had a bone to pick with you for about a year and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On which thing?
On. There's only one. And it was The Handmaid's Tale.
Uh-huh.
Dun, dun, dun. So I'm talking about not the original novel, I'm talking about the television adaptation that is currently on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I don't even remember what it was, but we kind of got into it a little bit on Facebook.
I don't remember that either.
I
Yeah.
don't. It wasn't heavy, but it was just like a conversation that I wanted to have. And so I was thinking about this show. So before we get into that, I want to check and see who has seen Handmaid's Tale on Hulu that's in the room.
I've seen a couple episodes.
Okay.
I don't
But-
get too excited.
You're familiar with the
Yes.
with what
The
it
premise.
is.
Like
the
and all
premise,
that.
The
yeah.
premise of the show.
Mhm.
It's a dystopian future that is terrifyingly accurate, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
One of the critiques that I had seen, and I feel like you were one of the people that I saw talking about it, was that they didn't want to watch the show because the terrible conditions that the women are kept in are mirror American slavery.
Oh, I did not have that critique.
I guess our fight's over.
I
No,
thought it
because-
mirrored.
No, I had a critique about how the show was portraying Black characters, actually, and Black women. That was my main critique of the show. I think it using some parallels with American chattel slavery in some of the costuming choices that they make. Because I even gave an example of in a recent episode, they had the women wearing like mouth guards, and the way the mouth guards were designed almost seemed like they're trying to reference chattel slavery when that was happening. I think that can be very poignant and basically highlight how dehumanization of different marginalized groups, how then systemic oppression can show up in very similar ways. and the author of the original Handmaid's Tale, like, she did so much research into stuff that had already happened to women, and I just love that that's the history of that story, being like, all these things have already happened to women, so I'm putting them in a dystopian future with folks like that would never happen to anyone, and people are like, this has already happened. So I feel like that's a lot of powerful imagery in the show when they do stuff like that.
And they do say that that was her one like criteria for it, even adaptation, is that nothing can happen in it that hasn't actually happened at some point in history. Which I think I agree that I feel like that like really kind of floored me, though, hearing that information about it, being like, oh, and then really thinking about all of the things that have happened in addition to like the stuff we know about, you know, and just being like, damn, women can't catch a break up in this bitch, can we? Or what?
No.
Oh my God. So, whoo. Okay, so I guess we didn't have like a real fight. So I guess what the critiques that I had heard, and I'm sure you had heard that too, is that it's kind of like, well, no one cared about this kind of treatment
until we put a blonde white woman in the same scenario. Yes, I have that critique.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
it's really annoying for me, especially as an entertainer, when you know there's so many opportunities to tell so many stories of so many different people and actors of many colors and face and backgrounds who are waiting to tell these stories, and they refuse to. They continue to put the same blonde white phenotype in, and they insert that into the story, and then it's something worthy of accolade or tears.
Because what I thought was interesting about it, for me, as knowing my racial background, having the white mother, black father, like in that she's the mom of a black child. Her, you know, her daughter is black, but they don't. It's sort of this colorblind like society, right? Was that what you were?
Yes, because they have so. I read the book in college, and I feel like there was racial implications to some of the casts that have been created that were implied, that I thought the show wants to delve deeper into all of these things, but they haven't delved into how race shows up. There is implied in the book that the majority of Marthas, who are the servant class of folks who service the wives and the commanders by cooking and cleaning and basically their domestic help. It was implied that the majority of the Marthas and the majority of women at Jezebel's, who were basically, sex slaves in the society, were women of color, and that the society did have a kind of racial segregation in terms of what types of children they want to be born. It wasn't explicit in the novel. It was implied. Never goes into how would racism show up in this society with the types of children that these mostly white commanders would be preferring. And then my critique was, when I see black female characters show up, they're relegated to those two roles, Martha's or Jezebel's. They are angry characters. They're one-off characters. So the main character's husband, Luke, we see that his ex-wife is a black woman, and she's like confronting June at a restaurant, and is like, June was a part of an extramarital affair with Luke when he was married to this black woman, and the way they portrayed her to me wasn't sympathetic at all, and she was kind of coming across as a stereotype. And then there's another episode with a black female handmaid that doesn't understand what the resistance is about, but has given away 4 of her children as a black woman, 4 of her children to other commanders. And June is now the lead of the resistance somehow, and didn't know jack about feminism and how to resist anything, but now somehow June is this resistance leader. And this black woman, who we know black women would be at the head of a lot of resistance, have been in the United States. June is the leader. This black woman doesn't join the resistance, believes some of the stuff that's been said, and is an antagonist to June, and gets treated horribly, gets maimed, gets almost killed, is a self-righteous, annoying character. And I'm just like, Kay, they have a black handmaiden, this is what they wanted to say. So the writers have been called out on this, and they're basically like, we don't know
character development.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you get from A to B? We need to know that as the audience.
Yeah. And I don't see them writing. I don't see them writing black women as really substantive characters at all. And
accessories.
Yes, exactly.
Well, let's get into that a little bit, as far as, so there's the visual representation on screen, correct?
Accessorizing.
Right.
Yes.
And then there's diversity within writing for media, within, who's directing, who's telling the stories.
You saw Harriet, right?
Yes.
Yes.
No. Okay. To answer, sort of to lean into your question, Janice, about what's going on with that, I feel like that Harriet there was a lot of excitement around this film. People are coming out in droves to see it, but there was also a lot of critiques from casting to writing to all of those things. And I saw the film and I was ready. to be mad.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the film was poorly written.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the acting was fine. I thought the acting was good. I thought some of the cinematography was beautiful. I thought I liked the costumes, but I thought the score was abominable. Like it was like so distracting to me. Like it sounded like a telenovela. So I'm like, these are all the things like I had just as a film. And that's something I want to get into as well, is this idea that we can't even critique like our films are met with like a totally different standard of critique, where I can't just be like, well, this movie, was like, it was like a so-so movie. Like I didn't think it was a great movie.
And I thought it was pretty terrible. So we can talk more. we can talk more about that. Like even you talking about the cinematography, I was like, I do not remember any cinematography or scene changes or anything.
That you was,
I saw there was one cool scene change where it takes you from her reflection in a silver platter she's cleaning, and then it goes up to her face. I thought that was cool, but I thought filmmaking was bad on top of other narrative issues, and
okay. So just as like a technical thing,
some of the historical pieces for me, just because like literally my child attended a Tubman Hilliard elementary school. We were really passionate about these characters in history and learning about their stories. There was a lot of things that they sort of inserted that I was confused about, and a lot of things that were left out that I was also confused about that didn't have to be left out. And I thought of Hallmark and Lifetime when I was watching.
You got it. It was like the sound. It would be like dun dun dun, and like it was low.
I'm so glad that we have an opportunity to say Harriet Tubman's name, or more often than not, and that's always good.
I agree. I just didn't. Okay, so now that we can all agree that the movie itself was not very good as a movie, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that came up when you and I had discussed this prior, was the casting of Harriet Tubman. There was a lot of a lot of backlash on that, and understandably so, right? But let's talk about, if we're talking about the state of popular culture, like where our best Black actors, are they from the United States?
How would we know that? They don't get to act very often, do they? They don't get roles. The movies that are produced with opportunities for strong male leads we're pretty much limited to the same 5-10 actors and actresses pretty often.
Yeah.
I think that there is an anti-Black sentiment across the globe that somehow a Black person with an accent or a European education is a little bit more bred, or like a better breed, or designer. I like to say designer Black person. Whilst the entire globe milks and leeches off of American Black culture. It's a very interesting dynamic. So I found it very problematic that a descendant of Harriet Tubman herself could very well have been vying for that role. But we would never know. We would never be able to get to see that, because so oftentimes a lot of these roles are given to the prestigious school or the prestigious sounding Black person. Other arenas like education, for instance, Harvard has to have so many Black faces on their roster every year. 80% of those are coming from the African continent through English and European education systems, right? So they're filling their quota, but are they filling their quota? And from my knowledge, Harvard was built upon some slave money. So yes, Harriet was 2 generations from Africa, from what we understand, and the woman who played her was 2 generations from Africa, and that's all great. But there are Black actors right here in America, a lot of them, who are not getting their opportunity to work because there's an anti-Black American sentiment, and I don't care for it. And it's a Hollywood thing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to really understand the breadth and depth of anti-Black American sentiment, because you see anti-Black racists, and somehow they'll talk about, no, Black people from Africa, those Black women are actually nice and demure and whatever. It's just ratchet ass Black women in America that are a problem. Or there really does seem to be a hatred of an anti-Black American specific sentiment that people will even compare and contrast Black people across the globe with us. So yeah, I definitely am reconciling with some of that and see how that shows up in film. And I do think there's a conversation to be had about the African diaspora that exists within the United States, our unique experience with slavery, and as descendants of slavery still living in this continent, what are some visceral emotions, understandings, even how we have collective trauma, and therefore how one of our actors would know how to embody the role of Harriet Tubman. What would that look like versus another person from the African diaspora but not in the United States?
And that goes back to our first episode when we were talking about ancestral trauma and like that those memories living in your blood. Like, how can you not want somebody who like can tap into that passion and that history in their own bloodline to then like represent to the rest of the world like what this story was actually all about?
I mean, is there something in our psyche that appreciates a Black person who had 300 less years of trauma on their genealogy? I mean, is that something that we need to unpack too? You know, like
that has come up again and again on
they
on
are
this
about
show.
300 years removed from generational trauma than we are.
And
so it's
talk
a little
to them,
lighter, maybe feels a little lighter.
Well, that's like how Maria from Uganda, my friend Maria, she's like that. I mean, that girl is like, she has the most
Like
confidence I have
sunshine and
ever
shit. They weren't
seen.
slaves, right?
Yeah,
Their
it's
great
wild.
grandmother wasn't born a slave. There's a
Yeah.
difference. But boy, oh boy, I mean, even like The Matrix, they said that original character Neo was supposed to be a Black man.
Yeah, Will Smith turned that
there's
down.
That happens all the time. There'll be a
Right.
role for a Black person, and they will
Yes.
put a white person in there, and
Yes.
nobody will know the difference.
Whitewashing happens across all.
So then
Yeah.
the opposite of that, did you by any chance see the horror film Ma starring Octavia Spencer?
That was scary.
Yeah.
I didn't see
I
it.
did not see that.
I only saw the preview.
trailer?
The
Yeah,
trailer
yeah,
was
yeah.
scary enough. I didn't want to
So
go down.
what
the
was
rabbit hole.
interesting though about that film, just briefly,
Can
Yeah.
can you spoil it for me? Is it
Yeah.
because she had some like sordid racist affair with
Yes.
a white man?
The
She's
plot is,
messing
like-
with white kids because white kids messed with her and like bullied
but
her
it's
when
bad.
she
It was
younger.
like because they tricked her. She thought she was performing oral sex on someone a boy she liked, and it was a different boy. So it was like pretty traumatizing, right? And so that was sort of that's the trauma. But in that role, that character was not Black. And so then the director, it was sort of like this weird, like kind of colorblind casting. But
If
then
it
it
isn't
took,
colorblind.
yeah, no. But that's
so
the
crazy, right?
No,
And
that's
I
the-
think we should throw out colorblind too.
yeah.
That's not fair anymore.
The way Hollywood does casting is so messed up.
Yeah.
Like even that is a clusterfuck of the stuff they need to fix. Like the way women's roles are cast are just
Yeah.
like attractive woman, mid-30s is hot. Like we'll not have no character descriptions or anything. And then we'll explicitly racially cast things and have and not have a lot of flexibility.
Gangster
Yeah.
braids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was thinking about that film as like again like an attempt, and it could have been a very powerful and interesting thing, and it just nothing happened with it, and that's why no one saw it.
And they don't know how. I feel like when we get opportunities as writers and film directors, more of those opportunities, we know how to write these good stories. We need more opportunities. I don't even trust mainstream Hollywood to be able to write us in complex and interesting ways.
No.
They haven't learned to do that. So we need to have more of this opportunity at all levels of filmmaking and television making to show how well these stories can be told. And then I think maybe a white filmmaker could learn after that.
Learn from you.
Yes, learn
Yeah.
from us. But before that, it's not happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, and I most people know this about me, that I am a huge Ava DuVernay fan because I love her.
I like her too. It
And
was just a little hallmarky for me.
no, she didn't do that one.
Oh.
Ava DuVernay.
No, it was the
13th.
woman who directed Eve's Bayou, but I can't remember her name. She
Oh
did
man,
Harriet.
Eve's Bayou is such a good movie.
It's a better
I didn't
movie than
really-
even Harriet. That's why I said
I'm
go
like,
watch
wait a
this other
minute.
movie this director did because she knows what she's doing. I don't know what happened.
I bet White Hollywood is what happened.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
well. That's
Okay.
What, and when do we get to have that conversation?
Right.
Like,
We're having it
maybe
right
it
now.
could have been that
Right
film.
now.
It could have been these actors, but some white person, imaginary and behind the green curtain, the
Now,
Wizard of Oz
what
said
was
no,
very
and we will never know
frustrating
about that.
was I didn't even understand why they had to have that black slave catcher in there, because I felt like it was like, oh, we're supposed to show that some people were good and some people were bad back then, and I'm
We
like,
don't need that. We don't need that.
no. And it's the same. I'm about to go on a tangent, and then someone reel me back in.
Okay.
But I've been watching the impeachment hearings, and this is going to be dated, but it's because of all the talk of the founding fathers, and to me, it really, I'm like, they were like a bunch of slave-owning like psychopaths, and I will say that, and I it's the truth.
That's a psychopath. Yeah,
You know?
you're a psychopath if you have a mouthful of somebody else's teeth.
George
You're
Washington.
a psychopath.
Like, how could you do that?
I mean, but nobody wants to contextualize like for white folks, racism isn't a deal breaker. You can be a great man and you can be racist and sexist and all this shit. I'm like, who cares? This was still a great person who got to, and we're just like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Let's uplift people who knew at the time, because there were people at the time who knew
knew.
better,
You're right.
who challenged the founding
Yes,
fathers. White
you're right.
folks don't get that history or that perspective to be like, actually, there are people who always knew dehumanization was bullshit.
Well, they had to stay low key.
Yeah.
They had to like go underground. The abolitionists, like I even to this day, I feel like I have a couple friends who are like descendants of abolitionists, and they like say it like under their breath, you know.
What people's relationship is to them, and it also gets into the good bad binary, which folks who cause harm are neither good nor bad. We need to get away from that binary, the evil thing. Therefore, I can't be racist because I'm not evil. And they did that in the Harriet movie, where I'm just like, why is the villain such a one-note villain, a humorless, doesn't have any other dialogue or commentary other than I'm a mad anti-black slave owner and I'm mad that Harriet is here, and had nothing really else to him. And I'm like, stop
And you
writing
felt bad
villains
for
like
him.
that.
You kind of felt bad for him, right? He didn't have shit else going on. He just
You know, and then the thing my sister said was like, damn, like when the bad black slave catcher,
Yeah,
the biggin,
I don't remember his name.
look, see,
Mm-hmm.
and we
I
should.
just know he's on Queen Sugar. I like him on Queen Sugar very much. His character on Queen Sugar is very good. I like it very much.
And that's what my mom would say. She's like, my standard is black actors getting money. I don't care if the movie was bad or not. Just are people getting paid?
That's 95%
Okay, but people are getting
of
paid in
my
black
feeling.
exploitation films. So
Right.
are we gonna go that?
Right.
That's
you
what
know?
my disconnect with my mother is on. I
Yeah.
dislike Tyler Perry movies very much because I feel like I agree with some of Spike Lee's critiques, but I've seen enough of them where I'm just like, no. To
Not my
me,
thing.
he dives into anti-black stuff his own self, and he really hates black women.
Yeah.
Like professional black women are the villains in like
All of
70%
them.
of his movies.
Yeah,
He made his own. You understand? You had to make your own studio
yeah.
and your own Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
And your own movies,
Mhm.
working with your own actors, just to be able to get that ridiculous
I know,
stuff.
but still, the problem is also that the gatekeepers are still only letting in and out sort of certain kinds of portrayals, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where I often get frustrated. And then just to veer off a little bit into television, into mainstream television, NBC has Blackish and then the spinoff Mixedish, which,
And Grownish, so they have two spinoffs.
oh my gosh.
Grownish, I love. Me and the kids love that one.
I bet I would love it too, but I haven't watched
Do you like it
yet.
as a mixed person?
So the
Would it-
Mixedish, I mean, I like Blackish anyway because of that representation at Rainbow, right? I'm like, oh, that's nice. Mixedish, I feel like, has gotten a lot of criticisms online. I've seen that. For me, I do think growing up half black and half white in the 80s is a very specific like life experience, and that is what that show is based on. And so I feel like it's not about every black mixed race person's identity. It is about a black and white like experience in the suburbs. I had that experience, and so for me, like a lot of it really like resonates, you know. And even for my husband, also we were watching. It was like the Hair episode. Did you watch it? Or
Nope.
See, yes,
I don't watch it a
no.
lot or anything. I just
Again, it is a narrow slice of life, and I feel like if you didn't have that experience at that time, I don't know how much that show actually resonates with you as like I don't know.
well, but it's a story that
It's a
that
story.
resonates with you,
It
and
does.
I'm sure a lot of other people.
So for me, the part I like about it, right, was just the hair episode, but I still remember that feeling and like, you know, ironing my hair with an iron and trying to straighten it and all of those things.
I feel like that conversation is familiar to a lot of black folks, and
Period.
about hair
Yeah.
and it being a political site. Like it's been like that for black folks for a long time. I feel like in the United States.
So, of course. And
Yeah,
so,
I was at a show one time and a white woman walked up to me and I just performed and she says, "Your hair, it's in those locks, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's in. Yeah, these are called locks." She was like, "And you don't wash it, correct?"
Well, I feel like a couple of things. I feel like a well-told story should be able to like get at something human that it wants everyone to learn from this story. Like, so it should be able to at least communicate something universal to an audience about, you know, you're going to learn more about this person's story or experience, but you should be able to connect with that. It shouldn't be if you haven't had this experience, you're not connecting with the story. One. And then two, I feel like, again, that's a conversation when we talk about more black writers and more black producers, the nuance just with black hair and how anti-blackness comes into that place. Experiences my mom has had. She has very thin hair, and I remember she went to a salon. She was gonna say, "Can you do thinner hair like mine?" The woman cut her off and said, "Nubian hair." As a white woman, And it's just like, people don't even have the understanding that there's different black hair textures and types, you know? And so how would a white person even hope to have a conversation about black hair and not even understand the variety of black hair types and things like that?
I go to the Aveda hair salon school here downtown with my kids. So you've got 3 varying textures. It's awesome. We've got locks, we've got straight or curly, and I've got my kinky. I always go in
I
there.
just want to see your bathroom, all the hair products.
What counter space?
Yes.
What counter space? It's gone. And all the bottles are down to the very end, too.
Isn't that always the way? You're just like, why am I out of this and I just bought this?
So back to this idea of if you tell a well-crafted story, people can get into it. So so there is a film out now called Queen and Slim, and I know that some people have seen it and some people have not. So spoiler alert, if you have not seen Queen and Slim, I'm already mad at you because come on now.
Go see it.
Honestly. So we did see the film, but Danette and I saw it. So what we're going to do a quick change-o-rupto, if that's okay with you, Miss Reagan.
Yes, I just want to come back in for the final conversation.
Of course. All right. So if you haven't seen Queen and Slim yet, like I said, I'm real mad at you, and you probably are not going to see it. So there's going to be spoilers. All right. Is everyone ready to start?
Should we introduce our new guest?
Yes, we're going to introduce our new guest. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, sweetheart?
Hey everybody, I'm Aubrey-Ann Hollowell, Danette Hollowell's daughter.
And what do you do, honey? Are you a student? Are you working? What's happening?
I'm a student at Florida Gulf Coast University, and currently me and my mom are working on opening our own business. Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, I love it. All right, first thing first. When I saw the first trailer for it, right? Because sometimes I don't like to see anything. Like I just like to go into movies cold, actually. Danette saw it before me and texted me. And her text said, I just saw Queen and Slim, and I'm so sad. That was her text. So what was your first, when you left, how did you feel when you left the theater?
Oh my God, I was also sad. I think I was crying. I was like mid-tears.
Okay. So I too was crying.
Yes.
Right?
There were sniffles.
I mean, no, I was like crying.
No, I was here. I heard a lot of sniffles in the theater.
I was crying. So Queen and Slim it looked like Black Bonnie and Clyde. That's what it looked like it was supposed to be, right? So I thought it was going to be some kind of like crime spree, California, I don't know. And it wasn't that at all, actually.
So I haven't seen the movie, but I did a little bit of research on it, because that's what I do, and so that I would be a little in the loop for this conversation. But I really liked how the New Yorker wrote it up, and they were saying that a lot of people were spinning it as like this Black Bonnie and Clyde, which, as you were saying, was like 2 outlaws fleeing justice, right? So they know they had broken the law, they were doing it intentionally, and they were running from justice. Whereas this one, they called it a meditation on a system of justice that treats innocent people as outlaws.
It also highlights the difference, the privilege, and the race that comes with that. So Bonnie and Clyde, to me, were thrill-seeking. They were looking for their next fresh kill, which is the antithesis of what this film was about. Their thrills were very small. Their thrills were fragile moments, vulnerable moments, hanging out a window. Those are the thrills that they were seeking, riding a horse. They weren't looking to kill somebody else to get their rocks off and, keep on running or creating more chaos for themselves to run away from. They were actually trying to get as far away from that beginning point as possible. They weren't looking for the next high. And that's what resonated with me most, is that in itself is so dangerous for a Black person to just, do what's right, get in a car and keep on driving. How dare they? The audacity.
So basically the premise of Queen and Slim is a young Black couple out on a date. They get pulled over. Of course, we have a sense of dread. A scuffle ensues. The police officer is killed by the young Black man
after he shoots.
Yeah, but
the girl.
I mean, yes.
So
he shoots
that's
her.
the premise.
Yeah,
he shoots an unarmed.
Sorry.
He shoots an unarmed pedestrian.
Yes.
And is then tackled, and the person takes his gun and shoots the police officer.
Right. Yes. And so that's what happens and then they go on the run, and they're trying to
get to Cuba.
Yeah. So that's the premise of the film. So I was really upset with the movie because not upset with, like, I thought it was a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. The only thing for me, like, I didn't like the ending. I was so heartbroken. Even though I knew it was coming, I was hoping we were going to get a different story. And
Well,
so
it was
I
supposed
kind
to
of
be a different
appreciated the
story.
ending, honestly.
yeah.
I appreciated the ending, honestly, because it kind of gave you like this juxtaposition of kind of like how we expected like the cops to catch them, but then you kind of found out that it wasn't really like the cops catching them. It was kind of like the black guy who turned them in. And I kind of feel like that is like a kind of narrative for a lot of black people. It's kind of like they got so far and all it took for was like one other like black person kind of bring them down. And I feel like that kind of like happens a lot in black communities where we have like so much support and so much, you know, like people helping us, and then we finally get to like where we need to go, and then all it takes is like that one like hater who like brings down like the whole ship. And I kind of like appreciate that in the movie because I feel like a lot of people don't get to see like those kinds of examples in life, you know.
I felt like they should have got away, but I can't decide if it's because I was so invested in the story at that point.
So
As far as not liking the Indians, because I feel like I'm in this story and I would like to get away, or is it because at the end of the day, the truth is they would probably not have got that far to begin with.
Right. They wouldn't have got that far. And in the words of my dad's like, that movie was ridiculous. He was like, it was unrealistic. He said, why are they on the running from the lawn, getting on a horse, and she's hanging her body out the window and then making that old dude hang out the window? And my dad, like,
And it is ridiculous.
Yes.
And parts of those that made me angry too, until I realized that those were the thrills they were seeking.
Right.
That was
the
the alignment with the
They
Bonnie
couldn't
and
get
Clyde
freedom.
story.
Yeah.
That was as free as it was ever gonna
Ever gonna
fucking
be.
get.
Right.
And then another thing that I think that came up around it was this idea that, like, why do our stories have to be so realistic? Why couldn't it have been like Ocean's 11? Why does it have to always be so hard? Why can't we just
Tragic
make a
and-
fucking
yeah.
movie sometimes, you know? And so, like, that there's films, there's shows, there's things out there that I like because, like, I find it like relieving sometimes when it's just like a movie just about life.
Right.
And it includes racism because of course it will, but it's just, do you know what I'm
no,
saying?
we deserve a
Exactly.
happy ending too.
Right.
And so that's why I'm torn. Like, am I just that invested in this story, or do we deserve to get to fucking Cuba?
We deserve
We
to get to
deserve
Cuba,
it.
Yeah.
And really, they would have even got away too had they not made the choice to breathe a little, to dance. They probably would have gotten away.
Ain't that a bitch? That movie. Anyway, so I liked it, so I would recommend it. I just think that it was. I don't like the sometimes I don't like the standards that we are held to when we get that seat at the table, when we're producing our own content.
Right.
When we do that, it's not judged the same. Do you know how many shitty fucking movies are out there? White people, mediocre white men.
Kind of the same way with LGBTQ content,
Oh.
honestly. Like the number of really terrible like queer shows and movies that I have watched, and I'm just like, I don't care. There's like two girls kissing on the screen. I
That's
don't
normal.
care.
And yeah, we should have more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
right?
I want a depth of character and things like that. So, Queen and Slim,
I give it 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs
Yeah.
up. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna switch you back and put Reagan back up in the hot seat. Thanks for joining us,
Thank
Bree.
you for having me.
Bree, we love you, girl. Okay, what came up while you were sitting in the corner?
Just listening to the hot takes, and I agree with a lot of what Danette said. And so one of my favorite movies, like that has a black main character and a significant black cast, not an all black cast, is Into the Spideyverse. And I keep talking about that because that is exactly the movie that I feel like we're looking for. It is an amazing story.
Into
Into the Spideyverse. And it is on Netflix, but it's about Miles Morales, who is a comic book Spider-Man, but also is both black and Latino. And and it's about his journey to become Spider-Man, but it's a universal story about coming of age and stepping into your power. And there's a line about, how do I know when I'm Spider-Man? And like, you don't know. You have to, it's a leap of faith. You have to make a choice. And I'm like, yes, everyone, this is something that is a conversation important in all communities, but also just like there was a very real edge to it about what does it mean to like think about what I'm trying to accomplish in my life. The visuals were astonishing, and you can tell that a lot of time and care was put into it. So those stories exist, but I feel like we have to amplify and promote them. And again, we need more opportunities to tell stories like that. Hopefully from folks who know that the Black experience is pretty diverse and a part of a lot of different sub-communities that we don't get to talk about. I am a Black nerd, and a lot of times, like, I am just absent from so many conversations. It's like we don't even exist. I'm like, I'm a Star Trek fan. I can talk to you about this. Yes, I can talk to you about Harry Potter. What?
Yeah.
What house are you in?
I am solid Ravenclaw with Gryffindor tendencies.
Yeah.
I'm a little Gryffindor, Hufflepuff. A little bit of a.
I could see that. I could see that.
I'm a squib.
My favorite strong male lead, black male lead in any movie is still Rosewood, which is a really crazy movie. But that is like my absolute favorite depiction of a black man post-slavery.
Ving Rhames.
Wow.
That's my favorite.
Taking it back. Oh my God, I don't even.
A black hero. That was my first vision of a black hero in a movie.
And
like-
that's about a massacre. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that's like powerful
one.
portrayals, but it's still being in a story that is very much about like harm to the black community and anti-black racism
he
and
was
stuff
the
like
hero.
that.
He was on a horse. He had his gun. He stayed calm.
He bought that house with his own money. He's like, I'm paying cash for this house.
Yeah, he got him a wife. I loved that movie.
It was a good movie.
So there's a not a lot, and even now as you were saying that, I was trying to like think. I'm like, oh, let me
Yeah.
think of one, and I
Because she
couldn't.
thought of, and I was like, I have one.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, I can't think of one. You know what came to my mind? What's his name? Daniel Martin Luther King.
Oh, I didn't see that movie. What is it?
Selma.
Glory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. All right. Well, we got to wrap it up. This conversation, we needed to book like 3 hours because you can't be having like.
Book it again. I want to do this again.
Okay. Of course.
No, we're gonna have you back.
We have to have
Okay.
you back. So Reagan, how can we get in touch with you or find out more about you? What's your social medias? Hit me.
So folks can join my website, ReaganBirdConsulting.com. Follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I'm Radical Humanist on Instagram. And then I am running for RTD, District H in 2020. And
Yeah.
I
like to run with my girl.
My name is Danette Hollowell, and I am Danette Hollowell Music on both Instagram and Facebook. Or DanetteHollowellMusic@gmail.com.
All
if you want
right.
to email me. I sing jazz, and I'm helping to curate what we're calling Jazz Hop on the 5 Points. It's going to be First Fridays. All of those restaurants along Welton Street are going to be participating and hosting a band of my choosing right here in 5 Points, bringing the Renaissance back, bringing the music back.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Woo-woo. All right. I cannot believe the guests that I get on this show because, ladies and gentlemen, I have world-renowned comic Mo Alexander.
Hey.
All right, Mo, why don't you let the Off-Color fam know who you are, where you're from, and what you do, baby?
Mo Alexander, Memphis, Tennessee. I make people laugh for money. I am a verbal whore. That's who I am. I get paid to make you laugh, to make you think. If I can make you think and laugh, I get a 2-for-1 special. Mm-hmm.
So before we get started for real, Mo was trying to help me with my comedic stylings.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mo, I would like you to so tell me, what do you think is wrong with my stand-up?
What's wrong with your stand-up right now is the fact that you don't have the punchline correct. I'm being honest.
With your comedy is that it's not comedy.
What I'm sorry, that sounded horrible. But what's happening is your punchline is a statement instead of you explained to me what was going on. You said it was fine, but at the same point, the punchline is something it's supposed to be unreasonable, and yours are very reasonable.
I think that is the first time in my life anybody said I was reasonable. Honestly. Oh my God. I'm so glad this is being recorded. Okay. She doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to make her do one. Janae Burris, can you just introduce yourself to the Off-Color fam?
That was a great introduction. I'm Janae Burris. That's it. That's all. That's me. Janae Burris. I'm local comedian. Follow me online and purchase a t-shirt, which says late on the t-shirt. That's what time it is. But I'm a local comedian and a supporter of women in comedy, and grateful to see the Tan Tigress, trying her hand at comedy.
I retired after your open mic closed down. I retired from comedy, you guys. I had to because apparently my punchlines aren't punchlines. I'm so excited that you guys are here again. And by the way, I just want you to know, seriously, that I want to be on record again and again for saying that I know that Janae Burris is a big star and she is about to blow the fuck up.
Thank you.
She's already kind of blown up.
This is the year of supporting each other. There's enough room for all of us.
I ain't trying to tell
we can all come up.
I ain't trying to tear nobody down. You asked me a question. I gave you an honest answer because I'm not going to lie to you. Be like, okay,
no,
girl.
you critically analyze.
Oh, yeah, we're going to start popping off. We're going to get into our conversation, the reason that you two beautiful comedians are here today. I want an update of the state of comedy. Basically, I just want to know what's going on, what are some trends, and then how we can support your work and support the work of Black comics particularly.
Right, currently the market is flooded. It's flooded with comedy. There are so many specials. Wendy Curtis of Comedy Works, she was like, there's so many specials, they don't even seem special anymore.
Exactly.
And not that I don't want to still have mine, you know.
Yeah.
I'll still want it. I'll still do the 15 for Netflix and amongst 115s. Right. There's a lot of comedy out there. I think that the floodgates are open and everybody's giving it a try. There's a lot of ways to be seen as a comedian. I went to JFL and they have new categories this year.
What is JFL?
Just for laughs.
Okay.
It's a comedy festival, a big comedy festival in Montreal, and it's a big deal to go. And I'm grateful to have gone. And I saw that comedy is now open. It's not just stand-ups. They had improvisers. They had people who do characters. Some really talented folks, like the type of folks you might see on SNL. They had folks who just did videos. They got to JFL. They didn't even have to perform. They just showed a video that already got them in.
Which doesn't make sense to me.
They were called creators. Well, but they're recognizing that the market is really open to so many different. I just did a summer thing with girls for stand-up comedy, and they were forcing me to watch the comedy that they like. I was like, we're doing stand-up comedy. They're like, no, watch this, and they had me watching YouTube stars who are doing a lot of like running into things and spilling things.
Apparently, running into things is hilarious these days.
I was doing that in the 90s, though.
I mean,
come on. Ace Ventura, baby.
It's like fart jokes.
It's idiocracy, people.
Yeah.
It's idiocracy.
But there's the market is flooded. There's a lot of comedy to be had, but there's a lot of comedy to be made. There is comedy is everywhere. So it's a lot of ways to be seen, which makes it harder to be seen.
I will agree with that. Because you're talking about the YouTube stars now. The problem I find with that is, if you're a YouTube person and you're making money on YouTube, I bless you. Please stay on YouTube. Do not try to take up a week in a comedy club and reenact your live videos in front of an audience that they've already seen. They'll sell out an entire night or 2 nights at a club. And every one of those people who come out, who leave, are disappointed. Like, I thought he was going to do something different. No, that's all they have.
A lot of people who've never been to a comedy club.
Yes, never come to the club.
Yeah. And their first experience is, this YouTube star is showing videos that I saw already on YouTube.
Yep. I found it more damaging than comedy because they're not going to come back because they feel like, I could have watched this at YouTube at home, so why should I come back again? So that's why I don't like, when I put my videos online, when I put on, stand-up, I don't like to put on current stuff because I don't want to come saying, hey, I saw you do that online. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. I just wrote this yesterday.
Now we're getting into the real meat and potatoes of what we do on Off Color, right?
Okay.
I like to kind of view everything sort of through like this racial lens.
It's your lens. Those are your eyes, though. I know a racial lens, but people assume that about, like, I don't know about Mo, but for my comedy, it's like, you're doing Black comedy, you're doing lady comedy. It's like, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Me, it's the opposite. It's like, you're not really a Black comic. I'm like, you better kiss my black ass.
It's all Black.
Yeah,
it's all Black. It's all.
I'm a Black
lady.
person, therefore the comedy comes out of my mouth is Black comedy. If you want me to sit around and talk about roaches or something, I'm sorry, that's not me. I have other things to say. You don't understand how many times I've heard someone say, you ain't talking about being poor yet. I'm like, well, I'm not.
No, but what is it like traveling, because you're comics, so you're traveling all over, you're doing shows in different places, and I guess I'm wondering, like, you guys should have a lot of information about the state of the United States, not just the state of comedy, but the state of our nation.
America's fucked up. America is fucked up. Usually when an older white male comes up to me and say, hey, you're a Black fella, let me ask you something. I'm about to say, this is going to be some bullshit here. This is about to be some bullshit. Let me talk about him tonight. But for the first time ever, I was in Wisconsin a few weeks ago, and the guy came up and said that to me. He was like, "Let me ask you, why are the black people down south actually voting for Trump? He's an idiot." And I'm like, okay, first of all, I agree with the idiot standpoint. Second of all, that's propaganda. So no, no one votes. No, it's not a thing. It's frightening how dumb people are. That's why I find out in the whole American just sitting and talking to people after shows because they want to come up and tell me everything that I don't care about. And I just,
you ever get people showing you pictures of their mixed grandchildren or anything like that?
Yep.
People are trying to connect.
Yeah.
What I'm finding when I'm traveling in America, the state of America, is it's a lot of white people out here. Like, I don't know. I'm not doing clubs where there's mostly black people in the audience. So that's the first thing I'm noticing. It's like, wow, I keep thinking like, oh, it's a Colorado thing. And I'm like, nah, man, black people we're like 12%.
Well,
and then we're in certain areas because we were relegated to those areas by different laws, which is another subject. And so I'm not finding large pockets of black people.
But also something happened in the 90s that did something weird, and it was when Def Jam came out. Def Jam came out, and then so I used to work for a chain called the Comedy Zone, and they would have these quote unquote Def Jam nights.
Chocolate
Monday,
Sunday.
Yeah. So they do they bring in
Mocha Monday.
All that stuff. All the dumbest urban comedy night.
Delicious. Though.
Yeah. God. I hated those nights. And if you're a black comic, you've done one of these. You've done one at some point. And so they try to segregate comedy to that thing. It's like, oh, you're a black comic, we do the black nights. No. I'm not here for a black night. I'm here for the week. Don't try to separate me. I'm a comic. But they want to put you in a box. And I tell everybody, all the black comics out here, never let them put you in a box. Because you get in that box, they'll never let you out. You'll never let you out.
Like the prison industrial complex?
Pretty much. Seriously. You'll always you'll be doing that one night a week. You want to be able to do every kind of show you can for every person out there.
So the two of you, from just this conversation, it sounds like you have a lot of white fans, I think. Is that accurate statement?
Well, I'm going to say the majority of times I'm performing, it's in front of white people. And largely white crowds.
Yeah.
Mostly black people. My black fans are mostly my family members.
Why do you think that is though?
The lineup, the headliners. I'm not usually headlining when I'm traveling. I'm traveling with someone else. And the headliners are majority white men. And these are people that my family honestly have not heard of. But my family, they like who they like too. Like when they reach out to me and be like, "Have you ever heard of, Tyree Elaine?" Or these are they give me black people that they are watching. And so when I go to the clubs, it's like these are not headliners that my family would buy tickets to.
Right.
So I'm not surprised that it's mostly white people in the audience. They're there for that particular headliner, not for me. I'm just an extra treat, I think. And I don't want to be put in a box or relegated to any particular shows. I think that I work well on lots of shows because we are not a monolith. We are all different types of black people.
Right.
And then often when people meet me, they hear, oh, she's from South Central. They see some braids. They see whatever. But then when they're listening, they're like, oh, but that could also be somebody I work with or went to school with. Like, oh, okay.
I wanted to talk about, it's this idea of like men and versus women in comedy, particularly in the wake of the Me Too movement, and all the stuff that happened with the,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good for everybody. Okay, what I'm saying is like I don't care what a person is as long as they're cool with me. We're cool. But I also was a guy in the '90s, and I've said some horrible stuff, and I don't want to be that person. I don't want to offend her in some. Now I'll offend any audience member anytime. I don't care about them. But another comic who I want to work with and I respect, I never want to say something to make her like Mo is a piece of trash. Let's kill him when put him to sleep. Whatever. I don't want that to happen. So. I never want to say anything like that. So if I have specific jokes in my act, specific lines that I only reserve to saying to a male because it will come off wrong if I say to a female.
Do you think there's different expectations for you as a comic than your female counterparts?
What do you mean expectation? How?
Expectations in what you talk about, expectations in your level of success that you can achieve.
See, I don't subscribe to this theory that women aren't funny. I always try to have a woman on a show with me because I want them to be known too. I love working with women comics. The expectation for all comics should be this: be funny. Just go up and be funny. I might not be the person you're looking for. You might hate everything I talk about, but Janae will go up and crush that room with some stuff you want to hear about. One of us is going to work it out. I don't want an all-male show. We're talking about guys and girls, and my girlfriend left me. I don't want that. I want a mixed show. White, black.
The variety.
Yeah, I want everybody to have a chance.
That's the thing. Let's go back to this gender conversation. I did this Spotify thing, and they were looking for women, and specifically women of color, and women who identify as LGBTQ in that community. And what they did, though, they understood some of our specific needs as women. Daycare, some more money, some more mentorship, some more positivity. We operate differently. And so they supplied us with that because Spotify is seeking to increase the number of women and women of color specifically in the podcasting arena. And they gave out grants, and they were like, with this grant, do what you need to do to make your podcast. You don't need to spend the money on a producer or microphones. You can spend it on daycare if you need to. We understand that women have different needs and expectations. We want moms in this arena as well. And I really appreciated that because we try to, there's a society of like, things are colorblind. I don't see color, and we are all equal, and women and men are equal. And it's like, hold up, I'd like to be, but history has not granted us that. Therefore, starting from where we are, I need childcare. I need some more money to afford this. I can't take those days off because I've been earning 63 cents on the dollar. So I need some money for that. And Spotify is like, okay, we will provide that. Specifically the Sound Up program, which ladies of color, please apply for that. They're trying to diversify the whole arena. It's 60% white men hosting shows right now. So they're trying to mix it up, and they're trying to give us the tools we need to be in that arena. So what I like to do for women in comedy, recognizing that, funny is different for everybody. It's subjective.
Yeah.
It's like food. You like what you like. I'm trying to encourage women to tell their story, even though a bunch of men are telling you maybe your jokes aren't funny. Maybe they don't get it. But because of what comedy has been for so long, because we were not welcomed in the field, perhaps the audience hasn't caught up to what we sound like yet. And I recognize that, and I understand that. And while I am trying to be as funny as possible, I have, in the last few years, gotten a little more focused on my audience. Instead of trying to convince people that I'm funny, I'm trying to talk to people who already think I'm funny, and they tell their friends that I'm funny. And then I just create my own fan base in that way. I don't, like Jeff Dunham is making hella money with ventriloquist dummies. I am not into that comedy, but he is speaking to his audience and making hella money because they have broad appeal. They're getting the old folks, they're getting the young folks. It's not hitting me in the right place because I like things a bit more provocative and interesting. Right. But find your audience, make your money.
Yeah, I had my own show in Vegas for a while.
Nice.
This little casino called Casino Royale over there, right across from MGM Grand, and the Caesars. And they brought me out there. The guy loved what I did, but he marketed me wrong. And he was trying to get the old people. There was literally a woman in a Rascal wheelchair scooter one day who rolled out of my show. And I'm like, she should have been here. Yeah, she did. I was like, well, you gotta go. You gotta go. I'm sorry, ma'am. Get out. I'm sorry. This is not your show. I have nothing against you. I hope you win some money on the roulette wheel, but this is not for you.
I gotta get back to my slot machine. My
Well,
Keno number's hitting.
So there was that book that I shared with you, Rebecca, when we first met and started talking. It's called Audience of One, and it's all about what you were talking about as far as like finding the people that you naturally speak to, that you're not trying to be something that you're not, and that if your focus is on making a lot of money, people can kind of pick up on that and see that you're disingenuous. But when you're speaking your truth, when you're speaking your story and expressing that in art, that is so much more impactful, even though you're not going to appeal to everyone.
I like to translate that for all the black folks who are listening right now. What she just said was real, recognize real. That's what you do.
Real, recognize real. Truth.
What is your kind of audience? who are your people?
I'm talking to the ladies.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
talking to the ladies.
Okay.
And when I see men squirm, when I first started doing comedy, when I really got to do sets, I started in LA and then I did some time in Fresno while I was living there. And the feedback I would get in Fresno, I would get directly to my face, men being like, "You're raunchy. That was kind of raunchy." It's like, but 10 other men just talked about their dicks.
Oh yeah,
And I'm the raunchy one?
Oh, there's a super double standard. I know you
There's a
understand.
double standard. Therefore, I stopped talking to them.
Yeah.
Because I've been chopping it up in a circle of women, talking about dicks, talking about periods, talking about benign, ridiculous things, talking about curl patterns, whatever we want to talk about. And I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to apologize for anything. They get it. Therefore, when I see an audience of 100 men and I see 4 women out there, I'm talking to those 4 ladies.
Right.
And I'm okay with that because I get paid the same. I get paid when I get booked.
Yeah. There's multiple double standards. So if she's dirty, women shouldn't be dirty. I'm a big black man. It's like, you can't say fuck that many times. The white dude just said fuck 17,000 times. Yeah, but you said it 3, and a black fuck is worth 15 white. But
I say breast, they be like, she up there talking about sex. I said breast. That's a body part. It was in reference to chicken. They were like, no, you're talking about sex up there.
Yeah.
But I've been an artist my whole life, and I've been broke my whole life. I've been operating just like as a creator versus not so money motivated. I would like to have more money, but if I'm operating like a creator, then I just create for the audience, and it's okay if it doesn't always make money.
All right. So, have you seen Black Lady Sketch Show? Have you seen that at all?
Oh my God, that is very funny.
Yeah.
It's a very funny show. I haven't got to watch all of them, but I've watched like 3 or 4 episodes. I'm like, these chicks are good.
Yeah, I like Black Lady Sketch Show. I'm really digging Astronomy Club, though.
All right. That was next on my list. Could you not get ahead?
Because I didn't want to get into like trying to break down Black Lady Sketch Show. I'm glad that it's there. I'm glad that it happened. There's a lot of funny things about it. But what spoke to me more was Astronomy Club. And my sisters are like pushing Sherman's show. They're like, you got to watch Sherman's show.
Okay. So these are some. I don't even know what that is. See,
Sherman showed another sketch comedy thing, but it's on Sundance.
I don't know. It's on a channel I don't get.
It's on Sundance channel.
Okay. Because so with these sketches, and I felt the same way because I had not heard of Astronomy Club at all, right? And then I just saw it and I was like, oh, it's black people, and if I see that, then I just press play, right?
Right.
And so
first give them 5 stars or a thumbs up,
and then watch, right? So I started watching it and I died. That first
Killed
episode was fire.
The shade. That episode, that
I have not.
sketch.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't got a chance to watch that yet. I have. I'm sorry. I've been on the road for the past 3 weeks. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet.
That was very black. It was so black. I've done like tried to submit some writing samples, and sometimes you get notes that are like, it's a little. I'm not sure if our host could say that. I'm not sure if maybe you could. The suggestion is, could you back your blackness up a little bit? We want a black lady in the room, but
But
all this
not
talk
really.
about hot sauce and edges is real. It's throwing us off. Everybody ain't really feeling you on this, homegirl. But that show, I was like, all of the hot sauce, all of the edges.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And so with that is what I'm thinking about of creating our own works and how amazing that can be and how powerful that can be.
Exactly.
All right. So spoiler alert.
Okay.
Queen of Slim, spoiler alert, about to come up in here.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler
Nothing
alert.
ever ends well for black people.
I mean, right?
He's like, oh, well, I know that.
Of
Don't
course.
you
Yeah,
know
well,
that?
yeah, it was not a surprise. Well, it was a surprise
It's
to
always a
me.
downer. We can't never get away with shit.
That movie I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought the acting was great. I enjoyed all of that story. Y'all can't see the face. You can't see her face. That's a black lady
I
face.
did not talk bad about black people
No.
in public.
No. Well, no, but that's real too because I don't want to.
No, you know what? As an actor, I did. Okay, this is an acting thing.
yes.
I have an acting degree.
As
no
do
one
I.
knows until I tell them. So I have to tell people. But you know what? I love Daniel Okulia. What's his
Girl,
last name?
no, you are not gonna mispronounce.
I'm not
Daniel
gonna even say it.
Okahono.
But I find him to be a very emotional actor and emotionally compelling. And when he's in pain, as an audience member, I am in pain. The lead actress or lady actor, female actor, she was a little too stoic for me.
Mhm.
But she was lovely. It was just a bit one note for me, and I couldn't. And it was supposed to be about this story where they fall in love just due to the circumstances, and I was like, why didn't he put this bitch out earlier? Why is he rolling with her? Because he was such a compelling character as well. You know, they gave these little hints into his life, like he's a regular dude. Yeah. He's just a regular dude that got caught up in something. And I thought his performance was beautiful, and I just thought her performance was fine. That's all. Yeah. It was shot beautifully. I appreciated the different perspectives of Black people that they tried to present. Black people are not a monolith. I love when we put that out there. When we show that Black people have different ideas and perspectives and different places that we're coming from, even though it's all Black. It was a lovely movie to watch, but it was a downer.
I was so mad.
I was real down after that.
No, I cried because I was like, because the whole time you know what's gonna happen, right? You're like, they can't get away, and like, girl, you met my dad that one time, but like, my dad was like, that movie was just so unrealistic. Why are they hanging out the window when they're on the run and getting on a horse? And he was like so mad at it
because they know time to not do it.
Yeah.
Because they know from the moment that they decide to run that it's over. You know it's over when it starts.
Hold on.
Yes.
I'm sorry. You're telling me there are Black people on a horse?
I mean, but you know, that's similar to the scene in Moonlight when they teach him how to swim. I think that's such a beautiful, pivotal moment in Blackness. When a grown Black man teaches a little Black boy how to swim. And to see a grown Black man get on a horse is a pivotal moment of Blackness right there, because we don't often get on horses. And for her to say, I love horses, and share that with him, you should get on a horse.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's you should get on a horse before we die.
That's a good point.
We should get to fucking before we die.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't you have a drink and smoke a blunt before we die? Because we about to die.
I know, but why did they have to die? I wanted them to
Black
go
people
to
always die.
Cuba.
We don't get away with nothing.
I know, but I wanted them in Cuba. I talk about this all the time. My alternative ending, which was so good, which is like, if the ending is then the little baby comes toddling out of the house. They're in Cuba, right? And Asada Shakur picks up the baby, and she's like, Junior. And because they name him Junior for the kid, and like, you know, like, oh man,
his parents come over and visit. Maybe his parents.
Yeah, like they're just there, you know. They're in Cuba with Asada, and everybody's all like well moisturized.
But you know, like, in Get Out, Jordan Peele there's an alternate ending. My boyfriend told me he saw it. I was like, there's another ending?
Shut up.
He swear this. I keep asking my boyfriend, have you been lying?
Which one is this? Us?
And then I read about it. In Get Out, there's an alternate ending.
He goes to jail.
Right.
Where
Right.
Well, it's not his friend pulling up. It's like the real cops or something, and they shoot him. And I appreciated Jordan Peele for saying this is a damn movie. And we ain't got to make it end the way it will probably actually end if it actually happens.
I can always, even if this doesn't make the show, but just like that feeling in the audience, because I went to see it in Denver. It's hard to find an audience full of Black people, but you can go to Northfield, by the way. If you see a Black movie at Northfield, you will be in good company.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's where we go.
Okay.
But the collective gasp of relief from every single person in that audience was, you know what I mean? Like, it was so good. Like, it was the most communal, like, Black experience I think I've had in Denver, was that moment, you know, was everyone was just like,
I love it. I love seeing Black films with an audience of Black. I saw Girls Trip. It was all like Black women in the audience, talked through the whole movie, but it was rather appropriate. It was totally fine.
Listen, okay, this is not even okay. Fine, we're gonna take it out. It's a tired old trope, but here it is. Why do Black people talk so much in the movies?
I don't know why.
My thing with the idea that Black people like talk in the movies is it's a part of the call and response culture. I think I don't know if that's true or not. I just know that I'm not talking about like what I'm making for dinner. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm like responding to what's something that's happening on the screen.
I was in an almost empty theater. It was me and a friend and a couple other people, and I was the loudest one in there because I was wiggling in my chair. I was like, I can't watch this. I was like, or like when things happened and I laughed and I was the only one going, ha! Because it was like a shout. It was like the director did something that I was like, I saw that, and the white people didn't really see that. Like,
do you know where you could not see a movie?
Where?
Japan. So I went to see to them because in Japan they don't make a sound in there. You could hear a mouse piss on cotton in a movie theater in Japan. I'm not kidding you. And so I didn't know. And I went to a movie there, and I'm like, ha, ha, making my normal like noises that I make when I'm watching something. And it was like a federal offense there. Like, it is dead quiet in that movie
theater. It's definitely
theater.
a cultural thing. I'm not knocking white people for not expressing themselves in a movie theater. And I'm not knocking black people for expressing. It's a cultural experience that we're having. We're to enjoy art together with your people. There's something that artist is doing that is speaking to us all. So it's not speaking to the white people in the same way. Therefore, they're not going to have like an audible response. It's speaking to us.
White Janice, have you ever made a noise in the movie theater?
Well, I'm sure I have. at some point.
Have you ever said No, she didn't.
Come on,
Probably
you
not.
no.
No.
You're not.
Have you ever smacked real loud because you want everybody? Please.
Don't think so.
Because those things too could be quiet. I could smack and
Yeah.
just to myself.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. It's for the other person who smacks to be like, I see you, you see me. We see each other.
Let's talk about Selma.
Okay.
Is
The
that-
movie?
Yeah.
Today is Martin Luther King Day, in case you didn't know.
And I'm from Memphis, and as a black person from Memphis, I have to say, sorry that shit happened. All right. Anyway, you know
What
what
should
I'm
we
talking
be
about.
saying in celebration of that? Like,
It is, but it's also a sad thing because that dude. I mean, he was
I want to say Wakanda forever.
Wakanda. That's it.
I
right
think that's
there.
the appropriate thing to say.
That's still the thing for the black.
Instead of saying happy Martin Luther King Day,
It's
just
Wakanda
Wakanda forever.
Well, so part of the reason we brought up Selma and Harriet Tubman was just this idea of, in popular culture, especially in a white supremacist culture, trying to create and mass market representations of historical people of color.
Right.
Why is that? I mean, I guess I kind of answered my own question of like, why is that so difficult? Obviously, we're working within white supremacist context. But
They
I
think it's a
guess-
limited market. There's only so many. The numbers of Caucasian people in America outnumber black people like 5 to 1. So therefore, they're automatically thinking, okay, if there's 15 million black people here, that's not everyone's going to go see it in theater. Some of them going to bootleg this thing. Some of this going to happen.
We don't bootleg black films.
That is true. That is true. I didn't even bootleg. What's that movie? Black Panther. I didn't even bootleg that one.
Don't do it.
Didn't do it.
Well, in our previous interview to this, we talked a little bit about specifically in Harriet Tubman, where there's that scene with basically the white savior.
Right.
That there's that scene that may or may not have happened in real life, but
There-
there's
it's-
no
it-
historical
There's no
evidence.
historical. But here's the thing: there's always got to be a white savior in the movie to make it interesting for the white people. That's all. That's all it is. That's why they have the magical Negro and the white saviors. That's always going to be there somewhere, even if it doesn't exist. I mean, even the dumbest movie possible, which was the Abraham Lincoln versus vampire movie.
But I think it's art.
Yes.
I think art is up for interpretation, that we have to make sure we know the difference between documentaries and films based on historical figures.
Or like one's my favorite, the worst one I think out there, the based on the true story. Number one worst one is The Butler.
Oh
That
my
was
God.
the worst.
Lee Daniels.
The Butler.
Daniels, the Butler.
Oh, you watch this movie and it's like sort of this fantastic story and all these things are happening and stuff, and then you find out the truth is there was a black butler at the White House.
We're artists. We know that you know creating something comes from many places. When you're making art and making a film, some black folks were complaining about the white savior thing, and then having a black person as the most lascivious villain in the film. I take it as art, you know, and I say go support black women. It had a, you know, black people wrote it, black people directed it, black people starred in it. Just go support it. But see, when Zoe Saldana tried to do the Nina Simone story, I did have problems with that because she was in blackface.
Yeah.
And I felt that part of Miss Simone's story was the racial aspect, and being a dark-skinned black woman was pivotal to her story.
Let's actually go into that just a little bit, because especially when it comes to representation and culture and media.
If anyone ever asks me about blackface, I tell them to go watch the movie of Bamboozled.
Oh, the classic.
That movie hurts to watch.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies.
I gotta watch it.
There's a scene in that movie where they're actually putting on blackface. Not just some makeup stuff. They burnt the cork, put all that stuff in there, patted it on. And you can just, when Tommy Davidson is doing it, it's like they filmed the first time him actually putting it on and filmed it, and the look of disgust and hate that he had in it, it's just the realest thing I've ever seen. And I've sat there and watched that one scene over and over again. Just like, how the hell?
Colorado's we have here in Colorado, we have a lovely history in the past year of blackface, and we had the incident that happened at Colorado State University where the girl put on the charcoal mask, and then they took a picture and they said Wakanda forever.
I hate how they do that shit and then be like, oh, I was just playing and it wasn't real and it wasn't. But it was. That was the joke, wasn't it?
Yes.
The joke was that it was blackface.
Yes, and they denied. It was a whole big thing, and I don't want to talk about that forever. But
it's willful ignorance, and that's why young people are doing it, because they're brazen. They're like, I don't care. There's no consequences. Because your mama didn't tell you that you get socked in the face sometimes.
That's why I'm saying, I feel like we can't have a discussion about representation in media without bringing up blackface. I guess was that kind of my point.
I'm curious though, if you don't have to speak on behalf of.
Sure.
Do identify as Caucasian, white?
I'm trying to turn away from whiteness.
Thank you.
Oh,
yeah. We're
So I'm working on that, but of European descent.
Okay. Your culture is, besides all the history in America, your culture is important as well. Like we're saying our culture is important, and when people break it down and say, yeah, my grandfather was German and my grandmother, it's like all that's interesting. The food, the music, all of that is still very relevant. I'm wondering though, why is blackface still desirable? Like, why is it funny or worth even doing?
I don't think Janice actually knows the answer to
I
this.
don't get that.
When young people do it, I'm like, what reaction were you trying to get? Or like, I actually got to call into this radio show that doesn't even take calls. They tweeted me and was like, oh, call us. Because I was tweeting them being like, why y'all always having these conversations without black people in the room? And they tweeted me privately and was like, why don't you call us tomorrow? But we talked about blackface, and I couldn't understand why non-black people want to wear black people's skin. Like when I see little kids dress up as Elsa, they don't, like little black kids don't put on whiteface to be Elsa. But white people are like, well, I was being Steve Urkel, and I was being Arabian Nights, and I was being, like Justin Trudeau, they found him.
Like somehow you're being more authentic to
like
that character or something by
I will say what
also embodying the skin.
My father said to me about that. He said, they want it because they want to look like us. They want to be beautiful like we are. That's what they really want.
I guess a lot of what I see is that they don't understand that there's a difference between them occupying that space for a short period of time and enjoying the temporary benefits of that identity versus what it's like to actually live that all the time.
I'm trying to think of the same.
They want our rhythm, but not our blues.
Not your blues. Yeah, they want your rhythm,
yeah, and
but
the same thing. There was a discussion that I saw going on online with the same thing with dreadlocks. That the problem with white women or white men, I guess, having dreadlocks is that at any point in time they can cut them off and abandon that facade, I guess. Whereas for a person of color, like they can't get new skin, they can't get different hair, like they will still, I guess. That's
my problem with white people with dreads is I know they're gonna be smelling. I know that sounds racist shit. If I see a white person with dreads, I'm gonna smell patchouli. I'm gonna smell some kind of funky ass weed.
I used to have a joke about that.
One of the three.
I used to tell this joke about dreadlocks, white people dreadlocks, and I was like, when I grew my dreadlocks, I did some readings. I was a teenager. I read a lot, and it came from my history, and I wanted to be part of my people. And white people dreadlocks come from Fish concerts or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Denver white audience was like grumble, grumble, moan. I was like, oh.
Actually, Denver white always was like, let me have my
They
drink.
were like, how dare you? And I was like, you're right, Denver.
No.
Fresno wouldn't know white people dreadlocks, but Colorado, they're like, how dare you?
I
This is real dirt from the real mountains in here.
See, I can never do that because I look like the dude from PM Dawn.
Oh, I love PM
Yeah, I do too. But
drift of memory.
I tried it for like one day. I saw him in the mirror
Boomerang
like,
soundtrack.
nope, not doing that. Nope.
I had dreadlocks for a very long time. The trippy part is I had them at a time where I was a young person. It was already hard enough to get a job as a young person, but then to be a young person with dreadlocks.
Oh yeah.
And my mom was one person that would tell me, she was like, people are treating you differently. And I didn't really recognize it. She went and banged on somebody I tried to return some clothing, and they were like, no, you stole these. And my mom came back and banged on him. It's like, you treating her like that because my daughter is wearing dreadlocks. She went off on him.
Good.
Turns out one of my friends probably did steal those, but
We got to. Did you guys see Watchmen? Did I ask that already?
Yeah.
I
No,
saw
you
just
didn't.
the first episode, and then I couldn't figure out my HBO Go.
All right.
I
I'm
watched
down.
it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yes. It's,
That first episode rocked me, though.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you, we'll talk about a password, but let me tell you, the whole thing will rock you. The whole show will
I
rock
don't know
you.
if I could do it.
I promise you, it did.
I love Regina King.
Oh.
Mm, she is fire.
I also love Don Johnson, and they killed him in the first episode, and that hurt my heart.
I am a comic book fan from way back, so I know the Watchmen story.
Did it connect well to the comic book? Did it deliver?
Eventually, it does. It explains some stuff. Well, yes, it connects to the comic book. It does not connect to the movie.
Mhm.
That's what you need
Okay.
to know. The movie ending and the comic book ending are two different endings. This is a sequel to the comic book,
Okay.
and it's amazing what they do to it.
Can we talk about politics before we go?
Of course.
Just because. Okay. So at the
whatever.
time of this episode, by the time
We may or may not be at war.
we've always been at war. But I wanted to talk to you guys just a little briefly about the presidential election, and if you have a pick, it's winding down here, and so we have
We're gonna be
Biden.
stuck with another two white dudes, y'all. Come on now. We're getting Trump for another 4 years
Yeah.
because we do live in America.
I
And
know.
the fact that we got him once
That's
was enough
a-
to tell me that we could get him
Yeah.
twice. And if they would let him go a third, these white people,
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
not all white people,
no,
but folks will throw us under the bus.
If
again.
there's a very good chance he might be reelected, but if it's so, it's gonna be a lot of people. There's gonna be a lot of gerrymandering. There's gonna be a lot of
Voter suppression.
Voter suppression. They've already done that. Tried to do that in
Oh,
Georgia, taking off 200,000 people off the rolls already. 200,000 in Wisconsin, those states that he needs to win.
So I am also of the camp of I think that Trump is going to be elected in 2020, barring like some kind of miracle. My question though is I want to talk about because typically most Black Americans are Democrats,
Right.
and
Except for my Aunt Jackie, I apologize for her.
I got one aunt.
oh listen, you know what?
I got one.
Everybody got one.
I got
Everybody
one.
got one.
Woof.
And you're like, but why?
Nothing more embarrassing than Black
Wow.
Republicans.
I
It's
mean,
just
I
like-
know.
It's just like keep your business to yourself.
What are you
Auntie,
doing?
It
please.
is.
What are
It's
you
pretty
doing?
strange.
I love Trump. You need
Uh-oh.
Jesus.
Would you shut up?
So I want to talk about though these candidates because I get surprised because you know who surprisingly loves Pete Buttigieg, who is like currently in Denver at the time that we're recording this, is old Black people like really like him. I have noticed, and like that's my dad's like pick.
Old Black people like Pete
It's usually
Buttigieg.
military, right?
Yeah.
He's military, yes, but they also like saying the name Buttigieg because you can replace Buttigieg
President
with percolator.
Buttigieg.
They're like, it's time for the Buttigieg. It's time for the Buttigieg. Yeah, it's time for the Buttigieg. All right, yeah, the percolator. That's what it is. They can do the old percolator dance
Buttigieg.
If you were to vote in the primary today, let's just say that right now with what
Warren.
information we're at,
Warren.
Warren. Okay, I'm also Warren because I actually had to go officially because my favorite is Mark Charles. Mark Charles is Navajo that I
Yeah.
interviewed,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like obsessed with him.
Give him money.
I want people to hear him. His message is incredible. I think that he should be on the national stage, especially with his talk about like the real like reckoning that we need to have in this country.
That's why you'll never hear from him.
I want Elizabeth Warren to like go talk to him. I'm like, at least bring him in your cabinet or some shit. I mean,
Exactly.
damn, right? Anyway, so I'm Elizabeth Warren, and also because now that Julian Castro is, I mean, clearly that's going to be her VP.
I'm telling you right now, even though I like Warren, those Bernie people are dangerous and idiots too.
Yeah.
Those Bernie bros from last year, they're like, oh, if he didn't win, I'm not going to vote. Well, that's just dumb. Now we have Trump. So
Right.
I don't hate Bernie. I think I really would like someone under the age of 85 to be
Yeah, me
president.
too.
Hello.
I'm
Did y'all
tired-
get y'all meemaws and pawpaws off of the ballot? Jesus.
I know.
Seriously.
I hate to be an ageist because I don't like that,
Right.
especially as a woman.
Yeah.
But in this case,
When we were talking about, policies that are going to affect people and the community and the earth for the next 30, 40, 50 years, when we have presidents putting in judges into our Supreme Court indefinitely, it's like we need younger people to make these decisions because it's going to affect them the most. We
Yeah.
can't have our Mima and Papa telling us how to spend the money because they're only here for the next 10, 20 years.
You gotta remember what America is right now. America has conversations every day at work about who got kicked off The Bachelor. That's the problem. That's the issue. Hey, did you see what happened on Masked Singer last night? I can't believe this person won Survivor. This is the level of people right now. If you don't lie to them, they don't understand. They won't trust you if you don't. That's the problem. That's the huge problem.
We're going to have some people get out there with personality. I mean, people will talk about how Clinton blew it in the personality field.
Yeah.
She got
Not
up there.
inspirational.
She wasn't inspirational, and because she had, I think, I voted for Clinton, and I felt like she was she was the worthy candidate. Her resume says so,
Right.
but resume's not enough. We're not a country that reads resumes.
no, we want entertainment, baby.
Entertainment. Yes, that's it. Because I know for a fact some of my comedy that I do is too smart for the things.
Yeah.
I have one bit that involves physics, transgender people, a possum, all at one time, and it's a physics joke. It ends up being a complete physics joke by the time I'm done with it. And if you follow it, those people in my show, we all hang out afterwards.
All right. Well, I want to stop and thank you, babies, for coming in and talking to us today. I can't wait to have you on again. Hey, Janae Burris, how can we hear more from you, girl? Tell us where to catch you. What's up?
You
Upcoming
can find
shows.
me online at Negative Negro. It's not just a hashtag or a handle, it's a lifestyle. I have a podcast coming out eventually called Dead Daddy Issues.
Oh, damn.
And I am often at Comedy Work, so
Ooh.
my calendar is like a little too empty right now. So if you'd like to hire me, please hire me, JanaeBurris.com.
All right. Well, how can we get more of you? Where can people find you? Tell us, how do we get in touch with Mo Alexander?
Are you asking how you get Momo? Let me tell you how you get Momo right now. You can find me on my website, moalexander.net. You can follow me on Twitter, which is Mo Alexander, M-O Alexander, just one word. Facebook, Comedian Mo Alexander. That's my fan page. Don't try to friend me. I got 5,000 friends. I ain't kicking nobody else off. Just go to my comedian page. Everywhere, basically, if you type in M-O Alexander, and it's not a retired football player, it's me right there. Mo Alexander, M-O Alexander. Find me everywhere. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit me up on Snapchat. Hit me. Don't hit me on Snapchat. That's a dirty page. Don't want to talk about that.
Thanks for having us. Your nails look great. You look like you're making a lot of money right now.
I'd like to add one more thing. Starting in February, you can check out my other YouTube channel called Mo Alexander's Barbecue Beatdown. Yeah.
My husband's favorite food is hands down is barbecue. That's his favorite food.
But from where?
I don't know because I don't understand barbecue in that way.
Okay.
But
okay.
I'm barbecue's like barbecue.
Well, when I come back to Denver in
Yeah.
August, we'll film an episode for here.
Oh my God, I would love to.
Yeah.
I can get you a crew too.
All right, cool.
So it'll be
All
fun. Okay, cool. Sorry. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about. Wakanda Forever. I hope you have I'm hoping you're having a great day of service in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was bit of a philanderer and so on and so forth. And I heard he stole all his speeches from women, but okay.
Ooh, who didn't though? Who
I
didn't?
mean, right,
Come on now.
right,
Come
right,
on. We don't
right,
get credit
right.
for nothing. Yeah.
I know, but nobody talked about Martin Luther King unless you're talking about Letter from Birmingham Jail. That's it. That's my speech. I just want to thank all my wonderful guests for coming on Off Color. So fantastic. Off Color is a Tan Tigress production made possible by Tan Tigress and listeners like you. So please leave us a 5-star review. 5 stars only. I'm not kidding. I'm really not kidding about that. 5 stars only. And please follow us on social media. We're trying to get that Twitter popping. Off Color Pod on Twitter. On Facebook, we are Off Color Podcast. And later. And cut.